The Vanguard appeared out of nowhere, a dark, imposing figure drifting silently through the cold expanse of the galaxy's outer rim. The galaxy's defense systems were built to protect its vast territories from any invader. Their forces were strong, their technology advanced, and their strategic positions nearly impenetrable. Yet this lone human warship had just pierced their defenses as if they were made of paper. Captain Alina Graves stood at the bridge of the Vanguard, her eyes scanning the stars outside. She had led her crew through countless battles. But this was different. The stakes were higher, and the enemy she was up against was unlike any other they had faced. The aliens they were up against had conquered many worlds, destroyed entire fleets, and had never faced a force quite like humanity before. The Vanguard wasn't just a ship, it was a symbol of human determination and ingenuity. It was a creation born from years of conflict, from a species that had learned to survive against the odds. And now, it was here to prove just how far humanity had come. The first wave of the galaxy's defenders appeared in the distance. Alien ships, sleek and powerful, advanced quickly, their weapons charging. They fired at the Vanguard, expecting a quick victory. But the Vanguard was prepared. With a calculated turn, the ship dodged their blasts with ease, a perfect example of human strategy at work. The first alien ship that fired was the first to fall. With a sudden surge of power, the Vanguard unleashed its weapons. A single blast from the ship's main cannon sent the enemy vessel spiraling out of control before it exploded into 1,000 pieces. The humans didn't need numbers, they had precision, and they had technology that could outmatch the galaxy's finest. Back in the command room, Captain Graves remained calm, her mind focused. She knew what was at stake. This wasn't just about a battle. This was about proving to the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. The aliens thought they could intimidate, that they could squash these humans like ants, but they had no idea what humanity was capable of. "Prepare for the next wave," Captain Graves commanded. "We show them who we are." The next wave of alien ships, larger and better equipped, approached, confident that they could finish what the first wave had started. But they, too, were no match for the Vanguard. The human warship moved with terrifying speed, its weapons cutting through the enemy's forces as if they were mere paper targets. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Their most advanced ships, their finest technology, all crumbled under the force of the human weaponry. One after another, the alien ships fell, their commanders unable to comprehend what was happening. They had never faced such relentless force, such fierce determination. The battle, which had started with overwhelming confidence on the alien side, quickly turned into chaos. As the final ship in the first wave was destroyed, Captain Graves allowed herself a moment to breathe. But only a moment. The battle had only just begun. The galaxy's leaders were sure to respond, and they wouldn't take this lightly. "We've sent a message," she muttered under her breath. "Now we wait for their next move." And so, the Vanguard continued its march, cutting through the galaxy's defenses, one ship at a time. The galaxy had never seen a force like this before, and they would soon learn not to underestimate humanity. As the Vanguard advanced deeper into the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. Every corner of the galaxy, from the highest councils of the ruling aliens to the small colonies hidden in the outer rim, felt the shockwaves of what the humans had just done. A single human warship had torn through their defenses like paper, and it was only the beginning. Captain Alina Graves was not just any commander. She was a legend among her people, a symbol of humanity's strength and unyielding spirit. Her reputation had spread across the stars, not because of the battles she fought, but because of the way she fought them. Where others saw hopeless odds, she saw opportunity. Where others hesitated, she acted. The galaxy's military leaders, used to calculating every possibility, struggled to understand what they were up against. For centuries, their species had been the apex of power in the galaxy. They were technologically superior, with fleets that could crush entire worlds in the blink of an eye. But the humans, with their rugged ships and fierce willpower, had shattered that illusion. The Vanguard wasn't like anything the aliens had seen before. It was more than just a ship. It was a masterpiece of human engineering. Built for resilience, speed, and adaptability, it was designed to do what other ships couldn't: outthink and outlast any opponent. While the galaxy's forces relied on overwhelming firepower, the humans relied on strategy. And it was working. In the galaxy's central command, the alien leaders were growing desperate. They had never faced a force that didn't follow the rules they had set for war. The human warship didn't fight like the other species. They didn't engage in long, drawn-out battles, and they didn't rely on brute force alone. No, the humans had something else. They had creativity. They had the ability to adapt on the fly, to change tactics in the middle of a battle when things weren't going as planned. Zorath, the commander of the first alien fleet to engage the Vanguard, was one of the few who saw the human potential. After his fleet was destroyed in the initial engagement, he was summoned to speak before the Galactic Council. He had always prided himself on his tactical mind, but even he couldn't comprehend how the humans had outmaneuvered him so easily. "I have seen their ways," Zorath told the council, his voice filled with both fear and respect. "They do not fight like us. They do not think like us, and that is why they will be so dangerous." Zorath's warning was not taken lightly. The council knew they had to act fast. But the more they studied the humans, the more they realized how little they knew about them. The humans had never been part of the galaxy's grand wars. They were just a small species on a small planet, one that the galaxy had overlooked for centuries. And now, they were shaking the very foundations of the galaxy's power. Back on the Vanguard, Captain Graves continued to lead her crew with unwavering focus. She understood that this wasn't just about defeating the enemy. It was about proving to the galaxy that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The humans might have been small in numbers, but they had something no one else did: the will to fight, the creativity to adapt, and the strength to survive. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity wasn't just a passing threat. It was the future. And Captain Graves, with the Vanguard at her command, would be the one to show them. The galaxy's defenses were not built to withstand the unexpected. For centuries, they had been designed to protect against known threats, enemies they could predict, strategies they could counter. But humanity had thrown a wrench into their perfect system. The Vanguard, with its advanced weaponry and unpredictable tactics, was not something the galaxy had anticipated. Captain Elena Graves stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, watching as the coordinates of their next target flashed on the screen. This was the largest alien defense station in the galaxy, known as Fort Zereth. It was said to be impenetrable, a fortress of steel and advanced technology, guarded by an entire fleet of alien warships. But for Graves, this was just another challenge. Her crew was ready, and so was she. "Prepare the fleet for attack," Captain Graves commanded, her voice calm and collected. "We're going to show them what humans are capable of." The Vanguard surged forward, its engines roaring as it cut through space like a knife through the dark. The alien defense station came into view, massive and foreboding, its guns already aimed at the incoming human warship. A dozen alien warships flanked the station, each one bristling with weapons and shields, ready to make the Vanguard a pile of scrap metal. The first wave of laser fire lit up the void as the aliens fired their weapons, confident that this human ship would be no match for their firepower. But Captain Graves was already 5 steps ahead. With a swift command, she had the Vanguard darting in and out of their line of fire, its movements quick and unpredictable. The alien commanders watched in disbelief as the human warship evaded their blasts with ease. This was not how battles were fought. There was no honor in running from a fight. But the humans weren't interested in honor. They were interested in survival. With a sudden twist of her hand, Graves ordered the Vanguard to fire. The ship's main cannon, a massive weapon designed to cut through the toughest armor, discharged with a deafening roar. A single shot struck the first alien warship square in its engine core, causing it to explode in a brilliant burst of light. The other alien ships hesitated for just a moment, shocked by the force of the attack. It was a small victory, but it was enough to shake them. The remaining ships began to regroup, but the Vanguard didn't give them a chance to recover. Graves had already calculated their next move. She ordered a quick series of maneuvers that had the Vanguard diving into the heart of the alien formation, unleashing its weaponry at point-blank range. Within minutes, 2 more alien ships were destroyed. The aliens fought back with everything they had, but they were not prepared for the human way of war. Every time they tried to adapt, the humans had already anticipated their next move. It was clear now that the Vanguard was not just a ship. It was a symbol of something far greater. It was humanity's resilience, their ingenuity, and their refusal to back down. As the battle raged on, the alien commanders grew desperate. They had never faced an enemy like this before, one that did not follow the rules of war, one that didn't think the way they did. The Vanguard continued its relentless assault, cutting through the alien defenses like a hot knife through butter. Finally, with a loud roar, the last of the alien ships was destroyed, leaving only the massive Fort Zarath standing. But the Station 2 was no match for the Vanguard. With one final blast, Captain Graves took down the last defense, the station collapsing in on itself. The Vanguard had won, but this was only the beginning. The galaxy would now know the truth. Humanity had arrived, and they would not be stopped. The Vanguard's victory over Fort Zarath shook the galaxy to its core. The news spread like wildfire through the various star systems, reaching every corner of the galaxy. For centuries, the galaxy's defense forces had been a symbol of unbreakable unity, a coalition of powerful species that ruled with an iron fist. But now, a single human warship had torn through their defenses, leaving nothing but chaos in its wake. The alien leaders were not fools. They knew that if one human warship could accomplish so much, an entire human fleet could obliterate their combined forces. They needed to act, and they needed to act fast. The Galactic Council, an assembly of the most powerful and influential species, convened in secret. For the first time in centuries, the various alien factions set aside their differences. The Z'Tar, the insectoid warriors who had once ruled the southern sectors. The Netherrax, the technologically advanced race with weapons that could level entire cities. And the Prelax, a race of energy manipulators with powers that could bend the laws of physics. All were now united by one goal: to stop the humans before they became a threat to the entire galaxy. Zorath, the once proud commander who had been defeated by the Vanguard, was the first to speak. His face was a mix of respect and anger as he addressed the council. "They are different," he said, his voice cold. "These humans do not fight like us. They do not play by our rules. Their tactics are unpredictable. They adapt faster than any of us thought possible." A murmur ran through the room as the council members exchanged worried glances. The once mighty defenses of the galaxy were being tested by a species they had long considered beneath them. The humans were clever, resourceful, and relentless. And now, they were a problem that needed solving. "We must unite," Zorath continued, his tone growing more forceful. "We can no longer afford to fight each other. The humans are not like us. They do not understand fear the way we do. And if we do not act now, they will destroy everything we have built." The Prelax leader, Raltor, who had always been a staunch advocate for peace, nodded slowly. "We must join forces, but we cannot fight the Vanguard head-on. They are too powerful. We will need to strike from the shadows, create a trap they cannot escape." The council members agreed. The galaxy's military leaders had never faced an enemy that fought with such intensity, such precision. The Vanguard had been only the first step in the humans' campaign. There was no doubt that more human warships were on the way. The galaxy needed to form an unbreakable alliance if they were to have any hope of stopping the human threat. Over the next few days, the alliance began to take shape. Each species brought their unique strengths to the table. The Z'Tar would provide their vast armies, the Nethrax their advanced technology, and the Prolax would offer their control over energy fields. Together, they would create a plan to trap the Vanguard and its fleet. But even as the alliance formed, a growing sense of doubt began to creep in. Would these species, who had long fought among themselves, truly be able to work together? Or would the humans, with their sheer willpower and ingenuity, find a way to turn their united forces against them? The galaxy had united against a common enemy, but would it be enough to stop the human juggernaut that was coming for them? In the quiet of the war rooms, Zorith couldn't help but wonder, can we really defeat them? He asked himself. And somewhere, on the bridge of the Vanguard, Captain Elena Graves was already planning her next move. The humans were far from finished. The alien alliance had been formed, and plans were already in motion. The once divided factions of the galaxy now stood together against the human threat. They pooled their resources, each species offering their unique strengths to counter the Vanguard and its seemingly unstoppable human force. However, there was one thing that continued to trouble the leaders of the alliance. The humans didn't fight like any enemy they had ever faced. Their methods were strange, unpredictable, and terrifyingly effective. Captain Elena Graves stood at the command deck of the Vanguard, analyzing the data from their previous encounters. The alien forces had regrouped, and their trap was already set. They planned to lure the humans into a massive fleet ambush, hoping to overwhelm them with sheer numbers. But Graves had already seen the signs of an incoming attack. The humans had an uncanny ability to read the battlefield, to adapt to any situation with a speed that left their enemies in the dust. She knew the aliens were underestimating the one thing that made humans different, their ability to innovate. For every new threat the galaxy posed, humanity had already come up with a solution. While the alien species relied on their advanced technology, humanity used ingenuity and creativity to turn the tide of battle in their favor. "Captain, we've intercepted a transmission," one of the officers said, breaking her concentration. "The aliens are preparing an ambush. It's a large fleet, larger than any we've faced before." Graves didn't hesitate. "Get me the fleet. We're not walking into their trap." She had already anticipated their move. The humans had learned long ago how to make the most out of the resources available. While the galaxy's factions depended heavily on their advanced tech, humans had an advantage the aliens could never account for. They could always think outside the box. In the control room, Graves issued the command to modify the Vanguard's weapon systems. The ship's weapons were not just for offense. They could also disrupt enemy technology. The humans had discovered that alien shields and weapons systems could be temporarily disabled by an energy pulse at the right frequency. The Vanguard had been upgraded with just such a weapon, designed to give them the upper hand in any fight. "Target their lead ships. Disable their shields first," she ordered. "Then we go in." The fleet of alien ships moved closer, ready to spring the trap. They thought the human warship was overconfident, out of its depth. They had no idea how wrong they were. As the first wave of alien ships fired, Graves calmly watched her crew work in perfect synchrony. The Vanguard dodged the blasts effortlessly, its weapons firing in return, each shot precisely aimed at the aliens' weak points. But it wasn't just the firepower. It was the human mind at work, constantly adapting, finding the perfect moment to strike. When the alien ships fired their next barrage, the pulse weapon went off. The Vanguard's pulse disrupted their shields, leaving them vulnerable. In a flash, the human ship cut through the enemy line, disabling ship after ship. The aliens didn't know what hit them. They had never experienced a force like this. The Vanguard moved with speed and precision, almost like a predator hunting its prey. No one had expected humans to be so good at war, especially not the galaxy's so-called finest. "Keep them guessing," Graves ordered. "They can't keep up with us." The humans didn't just rely on brute strength. They relied on their ability to outthink and outmaneuver their enemies. Every alien fleet was just another puzzle to solve, and the humans had the key. The galaxy's best forces couldn't keep pace with the Vanguard's relentless assault. The alien alliance's carefully laid plans were crumbling, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. For the first time, the galaxy's greatest warlords were beginning to understand the full weight of the threat humanity posed. It wasn't just about firepower. It was about the human spirit, the relentless drive to survive and succeed. The aliens had underestimated that spirit, and now they would have to face the consequences. The Vanguard continued its journey through the galaxy, leaving behind a trail of destruction in its wake. What had started as a single ship defying the odds had now turned into a full-scale war. The once proud galaxy, with its advanced fleets and powerful defenses, was now on the defensive. Captain Elena Graves and her crew had proven time and again that humans weren't just fighters. They were survivors, strategists, and innovators. And the aliens were beginning to realize that defeating humanity would not be as easy as they had hoped. Every time the aliens thought they had a chance to defeat the Vanguard, it slipped from their grasp. The human ship was always one step ahead, its crew working together in perfect harmony. Every battle was a testament to human resilience. It wasn't just about technology. It was about the people on board the Vanguard. Each human soldier, each engineer, and each officer had something the aliens couldn't replicate: an unbreakable will to survive. As the Vanguard moved deeper into the galaxy, the alien forces grew more desperate. They had already lost countless ships, and their pride was beginning to crack. The alien alliance, which had once seemed so strong, was starting to fracture. The Star, once confident in their numbers, began to question whether they could win. The Nethrax, technologically advanced but proud, began to doubt their superiority. Even the Prelax, who had once manipulated energy fields to their advantage, were beginning to lose control of their situation. In a war room on a distant alien planet, the Alliance's leaders gathered once again. The once unified front was now divided, each faction blaming the others for their failures. The Nethrax accused the Star of failing to adapt to human tactics. The Star blamed the Nethrax for not using their technology effectively. The Prelax simply kept silent, their once strong leaders now filled with doubt. Zorath, the alien commander who had first faced the Vanguard, stood in the middle of the room. His face was grim, but his voice was steady. "We can still win," he said, though there was uncertainty in his words. "But we need to act together. If we don't, the humans will destroy us all." But the tension in the room was palpable. The Alliance had been strained from the beginning, and now, with their backs against the wall, it seemed like the cracks were finally showing. The once proud leaders of the galaxy were now fearful, something they hadn't experienced in centuries. Back on the Vanguard, Captain Graves was aware of the growing disarray among the alien forces. She had been studying their tactics closely, watching for any signs of weakness. She knew that if the aliens were going to break, now was the time to strike. "Prepare the fleet," she ordered, her voice as calm as ever. "We're going to press the attack." Graves didn't need to say more. Her crew knew what was at stake. They knew that humanity's survival depended on their success. Every move had to be perfect. Every decision had to be calculated. The aliens were not just fighting a war. They were fighting for their very existence. And the humans, with their indomitable spirit, were going to make sure they never forgot who had challenged them. The Vanguard moved towards the heart of the galaxy, the final push against the alien alliance. The galaxy's most powerful fleets had failed to stop them. The aliens were crumbling, and with every victory, the human message became clearer. Humanity would not be stopped. The war was far from over, but one thing was certain: the aliens had underestimated humanity. And now, they would pay the price. The Vanguard moved silently through the black expanse of space, its crew preparing for what they knew would be the hardest battle yet. Captain Elena Graves stood at the front of the command deck, her eyes fixed on the stars outside. It was a strange feeling, knowing they were about to face the galaxy's united forces. The Vanguard had proven itself time and again, but the alien alliance had learned from their mistakes. They would not make the same error again. The alliances between the galaxy's most powerful species had grown stronger with every defeat they suffered. The Nethrax, Ztar, and Pralax forces were now fully coordinated, their fleets larger and more organized than ever. They had one goal: to destroy the Vanguard and end humanity's reign of terror. The trap was set, and the humans had no idea what they were walking into. "Captain, we've intercepted their communications," Lieutenant Myers said, his voice serious. "It's a full fleet. This time, they're ready." Captain Graves nodded. She had expected this. The aliens had learned, but so had she. The Vanguard had been through countless battles, each one sharpening their skills. They knew how to fight back against overwhelming odds, and this was no different. "We're going to change the game," Graves said, turning to her crew. "The enemy thinks they have us cornered, but we have the advantage they don't: our unpredictability. We won't fight their way. We'll fight our way." She glanced over at her tactical officer, Commander Brooks, who was already working on a new strategy. Brooks had been one of the first humans to develop tactics specifically designed to exploit the weaknesses of the galaxy's advanced technology. The humans had learned to fight without relying on superior firepower alone. It was their creativity that set them apart. And now, it was time to put that creativity to the test. "Set the course for their fleet," Captain Graves ordered. "We won't wait for them to come to us. We're going to force them to react." The Vanguard broke from its usual formation, speeding toward the heart of the enemy's fleet. The aliens, expecting the humans to stay on the defensive, were caught off guard by the sudden move. As soon as the Vanguard entered range, Graves ordered a full charge. The human ship's weapons fired in rapid succession. But this time, it wasn't just about the blast. It was about disorienting the enemy, throwing them off their game. The Vanguard weaved through the alien fleet, attacking with precision, each strike carefully timed to hit weak spots and create confusion. The aliens, stunned by the sudden onslaught, tried to regroup, but they were not prepared for the human tactics. They had expected brute force, but instead, they were met with swift, calculated moves that exploited every opening. The human warship didn't fight with strength. It fought with brains. Captain Graves watched as her crew executed each move flawlessly. There was no panic, no hesitation. The humans were used to being the underdog, and that gave them a unique edge. They could improvise, adapt, and keep the enemy guessing. "We've got them on the run," Commander Brooks said, his voice filled with excitement. "Their fleet is falling apart." But Graves wasn't finished yet. She knew the galaxy's leaders would be watching this battle closely, trying to find any sign of weakness. They had seen the Vanguard win battles. But this time, they were going to see something different. This time, they were going to see humanity's true power, not just in combat, but in their unyielding will to win. The Vanguard pushed forward, undeterred by the alien forces now in disarray. It wasn't about destroying their entire fleet. It was about proving a point. Humanity was not something to be underestimated. As the battle continued, the aliens started to fall back. Their attempts to regroup failed, their fleets breaking apart under the relentless pressure. The humans had delivered their message once again. No matter how many times the galaxy's most powerful species tried to stop them, humanity would always find a way to rise. The fight was far from over, but Captain Alina Graves knew one thing: humanity had just turned the tide of the war. The galaxy would never look at them the same way again. The galaxy had watched in silence as the Vanguard continued to cut through their forces, one victory after another. The human warship, seemingly unstoppable, had now reached the heart of the galaxy. The alien alliance, once so confident in their superiority, had been brought to its knees. Their best fleets had been crushed, and the once united front of their leaders was now divided, their forces scattered. But the galaxy's leaders knew that this war was far from over. Captain Alina Graves and her crew had already shown the world that humans could adapt, fight, and survive. Now the aliens were running out of options. There was only one final chance to stop the humans before they truly took control of the galaxy. In the war room of the Alien Council, the atmosphere was tense. Zorath, the battle-hardened alien commander who had once underestimated the humans, stood before the council, his mind racing. He had seen how the humans fought, and it was clear now that they had something none of the galaxy's greatest military leaders had anticipated: a relentless will to survive. "We've tried everything," Zorath said, his voice heavy with frustration. "We've used force, we've used strategy, and still they come at us with everything they have. If we don't change our approach, they will destroy us all." Raltor, the Prelax leader, spoke next. "We cannot allow this to continue. The humans have no regard for the rules of war. They don't fight with honor, but with ingenuity. We must do whatever it takes to stop them." The Alien Council had no more time to waste. They had to find a way to defeat the Vanguard, and fast. But even as they planned, something unexpected happened. Zorath, who had once been the first to doubt humanity, found himself questioning everything. "What if we don't have to fight them at all?" Zorath asked, his voice quiet but firm. "What if there's another way?" The council fell silent. Raltor turned toward Zorath, intrigued. "What are you suggesting?" Zorath hesitated for a moment. "What if we try diplomacy? What if we give them something they want, something that will make them pause their attack?" The idea was radical. The galaxy's leaders had always prided themselves on their strength, their ability to dominate others. But the humans had shown them that raw power was not always the answer. Could they negotiate with the humans? Could they find common ground? The council debated this new plan for hours, weighing the risks and rewards. Finally, they agreed. Zorath was tasked with reaching out to Captain Graves, offering a truce. It wasn't a perfect plan, but it was the only chance they had left. Back on the Vanguard, Captain Graves was deep in thought as she watched the alien fleet retreat. She had expected another attack, but instead, a communication signal came through. She listened carefully as the message played. "This is Zorath of the Alien Alliance," the voice said. "We are willing to negotiate. We offer a truce." Graves frowned. It was unexpected. For the first time, the aliens were asking for peace. She knew this wasn't a sign of weakness. They had no choice but to make this offer. The Vanguard had proven that humans could not be defeated through force alone. Captain Graves glanced at her crew, her eyes narrowing in thought. A truce. It seemed too simple, too easy. But maybe, just maybe, this was humanity's chance to show the galaxy that they didn't need to conquer. It was about survival, understanding, and proving that they were more than just another race to be dominated. She sent the signal back, her voice steady and calm. "I'll meet you on neutral ground. But know this: humanity will never be a subordinate to anyone." The Vanguard had reached the turning point. What started as a fight for survival had now turned into a moment of decision for the galaxy. Could they find a way to coexist with humanity, or would they continue their war against the unstoppable force? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain: the humans had made their mark. The Vanguard sat in the quiet of space, its engines powered down as Captain Alina Graves stared at the incoming transmission. The offer from the Alien Alliance had caught her by surprise. But now, as the human ship approached the designated meeting point for the truce, her mind was full of uncertainty. Could they trust the aliens? Were they truly ready to stop fighting? Or was this just another trap? Graves had seen what the galaxy was capable of, and the idea of trusting them seemed almost impossible. But at the same time, this could be humanity's chance to prove that they could bring about peace without needing to destroy everyone who stood in their way. "We have to go," Graves said firmly to her crew, who were watching her intently. "They've offered a truce, and we can't afford to look weak. But we must be careful. We're walking into the lion's den." The crew nodded. They had been through countless battles, and each one had brought them closer together. They trusted their captain, and they trusted humanity's resilience. The final assault on the galaxy's defenses had not been easy, but it had shown the world what humans could do. The Vanguard turned slowly, heading toward the neutral zone where the alien alliance had arranged to meet. It wasn't just about an end to the war anymore. It was about making sure humanity was respected, that their place in the galaxy was not to be overlooked. As they approached the designated meeting point, the crew prepared themselves for whatever was to come. Graves couldn't shake the feeling that this meeting would decide the future of humanity, one way or the other. The alien fleet, large and menacing, was waiting at the meeting location. The ships were positioned in perfect formation, their weapons powered down, a sign that they were honoring the truce. For now, a small shuttle from the alien fleet moved toward the vanguard, its destination clear. It was time to face the enemy face to face. Captain Graves took a deep breath as she made her way to the shuttle bay. Her mind was sharp, her determination unwavering. She had led her crew through unimaginable odds, and now she was about to meet the very aliens who had once considered humanity nothing more than an insignificant species. The shuttle door opened, revealing Zorath, the commander who had once been humanity's enemy. His face was serious, but there was something in his eyes that made Graves pause. Respect, perhaps. Or was it fear? Either way, she knew this moment would define everything that came after. Zorath stepped forward, bowing slightly in acknowledgement. Captain Graves, we've lost many lives. You've proven that humanity is not to be underestimated. We come to you now with a proposal for peace. Graves stared at him for a long moment, trying to gauge his sincerity. The Prelax, Zatar, and Nethrax had suffered immense losses in their attempts to stop the humans. They had seen the vanguard tear through their defenses. Perhaps they now understood that war with humanity was not a war they could win. I've always believed in one thing: survival, Graves said, her voice steady. But peace, that's something we can work toward. But you need to understand one thing clearly: humanity will not be anyone's servant. We will not bow to anyone. Zorath nodded. That is understood. We are willing to negotiate, but only if we can find a way to coexist. The war must end. Graves gave a small nod of approval. This was what humanity had fought for, not to dominate, but to live, to prove that they could carve out their place in the galaxy without being crushed under the weight of others. As the talks began, it became clear that both sides were tired of the endless fighting. The galaxy's leaders, humbled by the Vanguard's power, and the spirit of the humans, were finally ready to hear their terms. But Captain Graves knew one thing for sure: humanity had earned their place in the stars, not through violence, but through resilience. The final assault had led them to this moment, a chance to secure peace, and in doing so, secure the future of humanity in the galaxy. The galaxy had never been the same after the arrival of humanity. What started as a conflict, an unexpected, one-sided war against an unprepared alien alliance, had turned into something far greater. The Vanguard had not only won battles but had forced the galaxy to take notice of humanity's power, resilience, and unique ability to survive against the odds. Captain Alina Graves stood at the helm of the Vanguard, watching as the alien fleet withdrew. The once mighty forces of the galaxy, the Nethrax, Zatar, and Prelax, were now engaged in peace talks, each leader now willing to listen. The war had left its mark on all of them, but now, a new chapter was beginning. Graves knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a new era for humanity. "Captain, the Council is waiting for you," Lieutenant Myers said, walking into the command room. He looked nervous, but also hopeful. The humans had won, and now they were going to sit at the table with the galaxy's leaders as equals. "Thanks, Lieutenant," Graves replied, taking one last look at the peaceful stars outside before she made her way to the council room. The atmosphere in the council room was tense, but not in the way it had been during the war. This time, there were no threats, no promises of annihilation. Instead, there was quiet anticipation. The galaxy's leaders, once united only by their desire to crush humanity, were now seated together, uncertain but open to negotiation. Zorath, the commander who had once been humanity's greatest adversary, was sitting at the table, his usual confidence tempered by the reality of what had happened. His species had been humbled by the vanguard and the humans' unrelenting fight. The other leaders, too, wore faces that reflected the change in their minds. Captain Graves, Zoreth greeted her with a nod. "We never expected this. You've shown us that humanity is not a force to be ignored." Graves took her seat at the table, her eyes scanning the room. She wasn't here to gloat. She wasn't here to claim victory. She was here because humanity had earned their place. The galaxy might have seen them as weak and insignificant at first, but now they had the respect of those who once looked down on them. "We didn't come here to dominate," Graves said calmly. "We came to survive. We came to make our own place in the galaxy, just like you did. We don't want to be your enemies. We want to work with you, not against you." The council members exchanged uncertain glances, but none of them spoke against her. They had seen what humanity was capable of. They had felt the shock of the Vanguard's power, and they knew that humanity wasn't like any other species they had ever faced. The discussions were long and detailed, but over time, they began to find common ground. The terms were simple: respect, peace, and cooperation. The galaxy had seen how dangerous it could be to underestimate humanity, and now they were learning that peace with humans was not only possible, but desirable. As the meeting came to a close, Captain Graves stood, her heart filled with a sense of accomplishment, not for her own victory, but for the future she had secured for humanity. "Thank you," she said, looking around the table. "Humanity has earned its place in the stars, and we will work with you to build something better, for all of us." The leaders nodded, some with reluctant acceptance, others with newfound respect. The galaxy would never be the same, but humanity had proven that they were not just survivors. They were leaders, capable of shaping the future. The Vanguard would remain a symbol of what humanity had accomplished, a reminder to the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. And as Captain Graves looked out the window, she knew that the real challenge had just begun, building a future where humanity and the galaxy could coexist, not as enemies, but as allies.